This is a 34-year-old gamer who spent his entire adult life alone in his room. One day, he is hit by a truck. In his final moments, his only regret in life is that he is dying as a virgin. But something feels wrong. Darkness is replaced with light. He opens his eyes and sees a strange man and an attractive woman. He wonders what the hell is going on when the man kisses him straight on the lips, but immediately shifts his attention to the plot developing before him. He refuses to let this opportunity slip. He reaches out to cop a feel, but after seeing his tiny arms, he gets it. His previous life has been left behind and has reincarnated as a baby. Their names are Paul and Zenith, his new parents. His name is Rudy, short for RUDEUS GREYRAT. As he gets accustomed to his new body, Rudy does not hold back. He fulfills all his desires of old, unwilling to die again with the same regrets. Lilia, who is a maid of the GREYRAT family, sees the demonic presence within him. She fears the perverted eyes that stare underneath her breasts. Zenith comforts Lilia, confident that a baby his age doesn't know any better, or so she thinks. At first, he thinks he is somewhere in the countryside of Europe, but after he sees Paul swing around a sword and Zenith heal him of his wounds, Rudy quickly realizes that he is reborn in a different world entirely. At a very young age, Rudy masters the language of his new world. He wastes no time studying the arts of magic, casting his first spell at the age of 2. Despite the use of incantations in this world, Rudy finds that he has a special gift without saying the words. Even though the new environment poses more distractions heard through the thin walls of his room, Rudy maintains his gamer personality, grinding those levels while staying cooped up in his room. In no time, Rudy is able to cast intermediate magic spells. As a student of magic herself, Zenith is ecstatic to find out that Rudy is a magical genius, and immediately finds him a tutor. Her name is Roxy. Rudy is pleasantly surprised that she is a cute loli. In their very first session, Rudy immediately sees that there is more to Roxy than meets the eye. Uninterested in the perverted eyes of a baby boy, Roxy is more surprised of her student's innate ability, jealous that he can cast spells without saying the words. Nevertheless, she decides to stay with the Greyrats and train him. While practicing his earth magic in his room, he hears Paul and Zenith go at it again. He thinks it would be fun to see their reaction when he walks in on them and says, "Mommy, Daddy, what are you doing?" Leaving his room, Rudy is surprised to see Roxy taking notes on the plot development while developing her own plot. Satisfied by the plot twist, Rudy calls it a night. The pair continue their lessons for months, and Rudy is able to cast intermediate magic without breaking a sweat. All the while, he remains a disciplined student, even paying close attention to the plot-filled history lessons through visual stimulation. Rudy shows his excitement to learn that there are spirits and demons in this world, to which Roxy replies that despite her looks, she is, in fact, a demon. She adds that demons come in all different forms, both good and bad. Her purple hair race are a peaceful kind called the Magyar. Then there are the supered, green hair with a red gem on their forehead, an infamous race of warriors who sided with the demon lord named Laplace for 100 years ago and feared across all the lands. Roxy says that she hates her hair color as it sometimes turns greenish in the wrong kind of light. Rudy comforts her by saying that he thinks her hair is beautiful. Roxy thanks him but says to save the comment for when he meets a person he likes. Rudy is quick with his words, saying that he likes Roxy, to which she replies to try again in 10 years. At the end of the lesson, Rudy tries to catch her changing, but unfortunately, Roxy knows and shoos him away. After a year of training, Rudy is able to cast advanced magic spells without depleting a lot of mana. Meanwhile, Paul trains him in swordsmanship, but much to his disappointment, Rudy is slow in his progress. On his 5th birthday, Rudy receives a wand from Roxy. He is disappointed, however, when Roxy says that teachers give their students a wand when they are ready to graduate. He wants her to stay and teach him more, but Roxy states that there is nothing more that she has to offer, as he has already grown to become a better mage than her. Rudy is heartbroken when Roxy says that tomorrow will be his final lesson. He is also hesitant when Roxy says they will travel away from town to conduct the final lesson. It is then we see flashbacks of his previous life, when he developed agoraphobia. As a fat loser with no friends, he was an outcast and a victim of bullying, subsequently developing an intense fear of being around strangers. However, Roxy forces him to face his fear head-on, cradling him as they head out. Roxy comforts him by saying that she is right by his side. As they head across town, Rudy sees all the good people exchanging kind words with Roxy, realizing that the bullies of old have been left behind. Away from the town now, Roxy demonstrates the spell she would like for him to learn.
Now come, O rain! Sweep all else away! Cumulonimbus!
Covered in a dark, ominous cloud, Roxy creates a thundercloud and causes torrential rain to pour down with lightning strikes. Inspired and awed by all that Roxy has taught him, Rudy joyfully chants the words and summons an immense cloud that is a sight to behold.
Cumulonimbus! Look at that!
After teaching her best spell, Roxy acknowledges Rudy was able to learn all that she has mastered in a lifetime. Both proud and inspired by her pupil, Roxy decides to set out on a journey to travel the world and hone her own abilities as a mage. Before she leaves, she congratulates him for successfully graduating 4 levels to become a Saint class mage in just 2 years. Roxy gives him one last gift to commemorate his success, a necklace to remember her by. Unknowingly to her, Rudy has already taken it upon himself to never forget her. As Rudy prays to his new favorite possession every morning, Paul is seen copping a feel on his wife's bottom. Now able to venture out of his home, Rudy takes a pleasant stroll around town when he sees 3 kids throwing rocks at a hooded child. He immediately sprints towards them and throws water at one of the kids' face. After missing a couple of shots, the bullies decide to leave. Rudy asks if he is okay and is surprised to see that he is a handsome fellow. Rudy introduces himself and the child says his name is Sylphie. Over the next 6 months, Rudy teaches him magic and is surprised how capable Sylphie is as a mage. After getting soaked in the rain, the two head back to Rudy's place. Rudy brings Sylphie up to his room so they can take a bath. Rudy casually takes off his clothes and asks why Sylphie isn't doing the same. Impatient, Rudy grabs Sylphie's clothes, but he begins to resist. He eventually forces off the top and proceeds to take off the bottom, but is again faced with resistance. He thinks that Sylphie is just shy about showing his cucumber, but also doesn't want to be the only person with his cucumber out. So he tricks her. That's right, her. He finds that there was never a said cucumber behind the trouser. No, instead, it was a duck. He is shocked as this is the first time he has ever seen a duck in a place other than his computer monitor. He is overwhelmed with guilt and doesn't think she'll ever forgive him. Rudy asks Paul for advice, believing that wooing women is his area of expertise. Paul tells him to be honest with Sylphie and tell her how much he misses her. He adds that if he's lucky, she may even give him a little extra sugar on top. Our perverted little MC is inspired by the knowledge bestowed upon him by the king of chick magnets himself. When he gets the chance, he opens himself up, and Sylphie takes it well, saying that she also wishes that they were able to hang out like before. Happy that they made up, Paul joins the two, but wonders if he gave the right advice to his one and only son. The next episode begins with the most joyous of occasions. Zenith announces that she is pregnant. The families celebrate together, until suddenly, Lelia also announces that she is pregnant.
Forgive me, Zenith. That child's it's probably mine.
Devastated, Zenith sits down with Lelia to have a one-on-one conversation. As they sit together, Zenith asks Lelia what she will do. Lelia responds that after she helps with Zenith's childbirth, she will raise her own back at her hometown. Zenith knows Lelia's home is a month's ride south, making it impossible for her or the baby to survive the trip. As there is nowhere else for her to go, Lelia says she has no other option. When Paul tries to put in a word, Zenith tells him to shut the front door. Rightfully so, Zenith is conflicted. Even with what happened, how can she send someone to her death, let alone a newborn child? Rudy also doesn't want to lose Lelia as he notes everything that she has done for him. She gets him towels when he's training, sets up baths after being stuck out in the rain, and she even hides his perverted tendencies like stealing Roxy's panties and staring at her gigantic watermelons. and so Rudy decides to speak. He makes up a lie, saying that he heard Paul force it upon Lelia to do the hump diddy dump, and that none of this is Lelia's fault. He said that he saw Paul go into Lelia's room and tell her to spread her legs if she doesn't want anyone to find out. Paul tries to defend himself, but is shut down once again by Zenith. Rudy drives the point home, saying that Lelia should not get in trouble for something she couldn't control. Unable to fight the plea of her one and only son, Zenith gives into her conscience, allowing Lelia to raise her child in their home. Paul is relieved and Lelia is overcome with tears. The next day, we hear Lelia's perspective. She doesn't believe she should have been spared. Hearing the plot development made by Paul and Zenith every night, Lelia, a grown woman in a house with no other men, gave into her desires and seduced Paul. Lelia believes she should have been punished for her betrayal, but nonetheless is thankful to Rudy for saving her life. She admits that she was frightened of Rudy, believing that he was possessed by a demon, as he would always stare at her watermelons with a perverted grin ever since he stepped out of his mother's womb. But because he saved her life, Lelia says that she will commit to raising her child to serve Rudy the way she serves Paul and Zenith. A while later, Norn and Aisha are born. As she is now much more open to talking to Rudy, Lelia tells him stories of Paul and what he was like before he married Zenith. She told him that when she was a virgin, Paul once tried to make her a cucumber salad while she was sleeping, confirming Rudy's impression that Paul is scum. Still, Rudy acknowledges Paul's skills as a swordsman, having mastered the three main sword techniques of this world: Sword God, Water God, and North God. Paul taunts Rudy as they train, saying that Rudy's swordplay has stagnated. Paul proudly asks if Rudy wants to be a cool guy like his dad, to which Rudy responds that he doesn't want to be a guy that cheats on his wife. Rudy tells Paul to keep his hands off any other girl if he doesn't want to hear the low blow comment from his son, to which Paul whispers and asks if he means any other girl besides Zenith and Lelia, or just Zenith. Paul knows that his son is just as horny as he is, bringing Sylphie into the matter. Rudy admits this fact. Even though his father is scum, he admits they both speak the same language. Later, while seeing Sylphie advance her magic skills, Rudy contemplates the idea of school. During their tutoring sessions, Roxy mentioned a school called Renoa University. As the world's largest magic school, Roxy believed that Rudy should continue his magical studies there. Lately, Rudy has been feeling like he hasn't been improving, understanding that this small village he calls home can't offer him anything more. As he shares his thoughts, Sylphie begins to burst into tears, telling Rudy that she doesn't want him to leave her. He comforts her, telling her that he will never do such a thing. After his interaction with Sylphie, Rudy fantasizes about spending a life with her, developing his plot while calling out her name. When Paul catches him in the act, he tells Rudy that he received a letter from Roxy. In the letter, Roxy notes that she is now at the royal capital of the Chiron Kingdom, tutoring the 7th prince in the city. She adds that he is not as talented as a mage, but just as horny as Rudy, stealing her panties and developing plot whenever he gets the chance. She also mentions that she is now a king class mage, which is one step above saint class. Given the growth she has seen in him, Roxy also wrote that she estimates that by now, Rudy would have probably hit Emperor class, which is another step above King class. Facing the reality of the situation, Rudy again has the urge to attend school. The next day, Rudy asks Paul if he can request an unreasonable favor, to which Paul immediately replies saying he may not. After both Lelia and Zenith kick him in the shin, Zenith responds by saying that he can ask for whatever he wants. Rudy wants to attend Renoa, but he tells them about Sylphie's crying plea, to which Paul takes the credit for teaching his son to be a lady killer. Rudy hopes for Paul to pay for both his and Sylphie's tuition, so they can attend Renoa together. When Paul says that they don't have that kind of money, Rudy says he understands, but instead asks Paul to get him a job so that he can earn enough to pay for Sylphie himself. Although Paul doesn't think it's right for Rudy to give Sylphie a free pass on life like that, he reluctantly agrees. Several days later, we meet Ghislaine, a former member of Paul's harem and a badass beast woman with a huge rack. She is here to pick up Rudy as they will head out to his new job. Paul intentionally found a job for him away from this town so that Sylphie and Rudy can spend some time apart. He believes it is in both of their interests, as Sylphie's dependence on Rudy is unhealthy for them in the long run. After Lelia and Zenith say their goodbyes, Paul says his, with a final sparring match. Rudy puts up a good fight, but Paul eventually knocks him out. When he wakes up, Rudy is being carted off with Ghislaine, wondering where his next destination will be. Thanks for making it to the end. Please give this a like and make sure to subscribe. Have a great day and see you at the next video.